All right, welcome to beautiful downtown Grand Forks. It is the time and place for the Grand Forks Committee of the Whole meeting. It's Monday, August 12th at about 5:30 p.m. Item 1 is welcome and roll call.
Weigel.
Here.
Osowski. Osowski.
Here.
Berg.
Here.
Lunsky.
Here.
Breedolfs.
Here.
Sandy. And Bien.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Item number 2, information items 2.1, Red River Biorefinery update.
Vice President Weigel, members of the Committee of the Whole, I have Gary Bridgeford with me this evening and Drew Lehan. They're part of the new local ownership group for Red River Biorefinery. You may have heard about it. So they're going to make another run at the restart of Red River Biorefinery. And so I wanted them to come provide an update on what their plan is regarding renewals for the plant, some expansions, and how they're planning to process as we move forward. I just want to highlight, this is the Red River Biorefinery right here. You can see where I-29 is here and Highway 2 or Gateway Drive. This is the J.R. Simplot High Bay Freezer, the J.R. Simplot Anaerobic Digester, and this is Philadelphia Macaroni. So you can kind of see where they're at. This is right up here is the Fufang USA property, so you can kind of see where this facility, the hope of this facility when it's first started, and hopefully the new owners can get this done, is that the Red River Biorefinery would be the first of many expansions in this area. We call this the Corinta land here because that's the family that owns it. That'd be the first of a series of agribusiness developments as we move forward. So with that, we've just started working with them. I'm going to ask Gary Bridgeford and Drew Lehan to come up here and introduce themselves and who their local ownership group is and what they're planning to do here in the near term to get this significant investment up and going. So I suspect what has happened, there was a large investment as part of this facility, probably north of $100 million. And it's good that these gentlemen, along with their group, have made a purchase. And I suspect it was, I'm sure there were investors that lost significant funds. But the good part of this is that an owner has stepped in to start the facility up as opposed to cannibalizing this facility, which would have been a shame for Grand Forks. And I think they'll talk about some of the feedstocks. The first time through with Red River Biorefinery was started up during the pandemic. It was really going to be innovative in the sense that instead of using a corn base for their ethanol, they were going to use byproducts. At the time, it was going to be J.R. Simplot potato waste and also beet tailings from American Crystal Sugar. Those feedstocks didn't work out. In particular, the beet tailings, I think what I was told, turned out to be more dirt and rocks. And so it just didn't, the startup didn't work. And there were also some measures that should have been taken forward as a part of the investment regarding the wastewater pretreatment that weren't done. But I think they have a better strategy moving forward that we're going to partner with them with the state, along with the state of North Dakota, in getting this facility up and going. So with that, I'd hand it over to Drew and Gary to introduce themselves. Gary, you lead us out, please. Lead us out, Gary.
Sure. Hi, I'm Gary Bridgeford. Been a resident of Grand Forks, East Grand Forks for my whole life. I grew up on a farm out in the Bigland area, south of East Grand Forks, and been in the construction industry for most of my career. I was one of the founders of ICS 34 years ago. And we were involved, ICS was involved in the construction of this refinery off of 42nd. And it was originally going to process sugar beet tailings, and that didn't work out as well as they had planned because the consistency of the sugar beet tailings varied from one load might be all tailings that had a fair amount of sugar beet residue in it. The next load might be mostly dirt. And so it just didn't work out the way they had planned. Towards the end, when they made the decision to shut down, they'd converted to pea starch, and that was successful making ethanol, but they couldn't get enough capacity to make it worthwhile. So they made the decision to shut down. And about a month ago, Drew and I and a couple other folks purchased this plant from the bondholders, and we've developed a plan to revitalize this plant, get it running again, and I'll let Drew kind of talk about that because he's going to run the plant, so he knows the specifics a little bit better than I do. And he also hears better than I do, so he could, if you have questions, he'll probably hear them better than I will. So, if you have any questions of me specifically, that'd be fine also.
Well, quick introduction. My name is Drew Lee, and I've been in the community for 20 years now. Residential implant to the area, and have enjoyed my living here. I've been involved with Red River since the end of 2020 through its ups and downs, working as an employee. What we, as Gary said, about a month ago, we had the opportunity to buy the facility, and we took that as quickly as we could because of the faith of the individuals in restarting the facility is 100% certain that it will restart. It'll restart, excuse me, it'll restart how it's intended to actually run, but not on the problematic feedstocks that we were just talking about. This facility is being converted over into a dry feedstock facility, fairly similar to a traditional ethanol plant, but still utilizing the waste designation. So we will still be taking in waste, agricultural waste from the local area, and converting that into fuel. Our primary feedstock, or our primary product. The facility still will be able to produce other products as USP alcohol for pharmaceutical grades, and still have additional co-products as feedstock for cattle farms and other agriculture. So still primarily the same intentions of what the plant is going to produce. Major infrastructure changes within the facility are going to be the additions of evaporators, very similar as if you follow any ethanol production, utilized primarily for the reduction of solids and wastewater so that it can be turned into syrup and sold into the cattle feed market. The evaporators actually allow us with the dry feedstocks to go into a zero discharge facility. Knowing the history of the facility and some issues surrounding that, I think that is a major win for both the business and for the city of Grand Forks to not have that hanging in the background. That is part of the technological upgrades in the facility. Other infrastructure changes are going to be silos, storage for the feedstock. The facility won't look much different, but will be run quite differently because of how that scenario plays with the actual manufacturing process. So, employees. Unfortunately, with the change in ownership, we did actually lose the employees that were at Red River. I was proud to say that we kept them on for over 2.5 years and are rapidly trying to get back our employees. We will be staffed somewhere in the 38 to 42 total personnel. These are very well-paying jobs in the community, and the employees that I will say that have worked there have enjoyed working there. It's an atmosphere that we try to create from all of our previous business ventures and companies that we work for, and taking those key performance indicators that make a company strive, putting those in place and living by them. So we do want to be considered an employer of choice in the manufacturing world and keep that going. Any initial questions on what the plan is and the execution?
Just a timeline.
Timeline right now, working off of the major capital acquisitions, which would be the EVAPs. The timeline for restart is about 10 months from the acquisition of those. So we are looking at within the next year.
Further questions? Mr. Bean?
I think, the hope had always been that the unit would get up and running properly. I know there was high hopes. I was at conferences where people were really, really interested in this, and it sounds like you've got a turnaround plan that's going to bring some of that back. I think the biggest issue was waste disposal and odor, and your proposal will be addressing that.
Exactly, yes. With the EVAPs and non-wet feedstocks coming in at this time, there is no odor, and the odor that was created by the facility was due to release and discharge from the manufacturing process. I will say that we did follow through with everything from the previous leadership to clean up that site and remediate that site to its natural state, and no further pending issues with the city or with the state.
Are there new permits that are going to be needed from the state for what you're doing?
New permits will be applied for, which are standard environmental permits with the city and with the state, and transfer of previous process permits from Red River into the new entity.
Okay.
To answer your question, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. Further questions? Ms. Lunsky, Ms. Osowski? Doesn't look like any local leadership?
No, thank you.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Local ownership, is it all local, I'm assuming?
We have two of the partners are out of the area. One is in the Denver area, and one of the partners is from Poland.
Thank you. Further questions?
With this, Council Vice President Weigel, maybe I'll have Lisa come up, because you won't see, administratively, we can issue the permits, so you won't see this, approvals, if you will, but we'll be doing that administratively, and maybe I could have Lisa just kind of notate the permits that we'll be involved with through the city of Grand Forks, and those that will partner with the state of North Dakota.
Thank you.
Good
I have a
evening.
quick question.
Ms. Osowski, go ahead.
Yeah, has there been any type of research done on the people from Poland? Like to make sure that there's no national security risks or anything like that with the new ownership?
Mr. Gosted, looks like your mic's on.
I have done no research. I do know that the entity I think it's Biorefinery LLC, is a North Dakota limited liability company that is the owner, at least that's what was in the deed. I don't have any information as to who the owners of the LLC are.
Okay. Drew,
Okay, thank you.
is the person from Poland a Poland national?
He is a Poland national. He's also the original designer of the plant.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Vice President Weigel and members of the committee. Yes, as Mr. Phelan mentioned and Mr. Lehan, the City of Grand Forks will be issuing an industrial pretreatment permit. So we fully terminated the previous permit, and they'll go through a reapplication process. So we'll look through that and issue a permit based on that application and all the applicable parameters that will comply with our permit as well as the state's wastewater discharge permit. And additionally, as Drew mentioned, they'll work through the industrial stormwater permit with the state of North Dakota, and we partner with the state on those permits as well because they do discharge to us. And additionally, I think Drew had mentioned before, they do have a permit, an air quality permit with the state of North Dakota, and they'll just be revising and modifying that based on their new processes. So we'll be working with them on those permits and with the state of North Dakota as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
I believe this is information only. Mr. Phelan, any last minute questions? Mr. Bean?
If I could, I appreciate you coming forward and giving that information. I think a lot of the public was concerned before, and the more you can communicate like you are, the better off I think everybody will be, and you'll have a more successful startup as you go. So maybe again sometime as things are progressing, it'd be great to hear back from you.
We plan to be a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Thank you. Move on to item number 3, discussion items. 3.1 is release of claims in case of Hamry B, Global Spectrum v. Forks Builders Association, with attachment A is settlement agreement and mutual release of all claims indemnity agreement. Mr. Gosta.
Yeah, I can just briefly, this was an accident that occurred at, I think, at the Forks Building Association. One of the vendors got hurt. The city was in for a bit. We tendered the defense to OVG's pursuant to our management agreement that we have with them. They defended, they kept me up to speed periodically. This is just simply a release of all claims by the plaintiff, releasing the city and the other defendants in the action. And they're asking for the city to sign off. There is a mutual release. It's more important for the defendant side it is than it is on the other side. I just don't see any claims that the defendant, there were no counterclaims. So it's more important on the plaintiff side. So I'd recommend that the Committee of the Whole approve the settlement agreement and authorize it to be executed.
Thank you, Mr. Gusted. Questions or a motion?
I'll move.
Move approval by Berg, second by Friedolfs. Further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 3.2, Health Department surplus vehicles. Ms. Wall.
Good evening, Vice President Weigel and members of the committee. I'm seeking approval to surplus 2 of our fleet vehicles and using those funds on public auction combined with some funds that we currently have dedicated to health vehicles to upgrade to 1 vehicle. So we'd be removing 1 vehicle from our fleet in totality. And if supportive, we ask that the motion include the budget amendments necessary as well. I can stand for any questions.
I
Thank
move
you.
approval.
We have a motion to approve by Osowski, second by Berg. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 3.3, Renaissance Zone Plan Update. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. I'll just toggle to my correct map here. Thank you, Chairman Weigel. What we have before us is an update to the Ren Zone Plan. This was something that's been in place since 2001, and we've done periodic updates. And in this case, the last legislature approved some amendments to the plan that we now need to update our plan. There's 6 items specifically that the state allowed for. I won't go through each one of them, but some of the key ones are the first one bulleted going from 5 to 8 years on the projects. And in addition, we do have some geography. We had a block that was added with our population. So with that, I'll kind of quickly show you the area. We've made a concerted effort here to try to get out to Gateway Drive. The area has to be contiguous with our downtown. So with our last update, you can see where these end in D. We were able to add units to get out to along Gateway Drive. The El Rocco, the former El Rocco property, was able to take advantage of that. With the additional block, we're looking to go on the north side as well. So with that, we are recommending approval. This would, we do need to go to our other taxing entities, so we go before the county and school as required by state law as well, and then be back before you in September.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Comments, motions? Motion by Friedolfs to approve, second by Mr. Veen. Just one comment, I appreciate this focusing on the north end of Grand Forks. I think it's a great thing, and extending it a little farther west I think is positive. Maybe we can get a little farther west in the future. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Move on to item 3.4, create special assessment district, approve engineer's report and engineering design task order for project 8834 and 35, sanitary sewer and water main, Prairie's 12th edition. Mr. Lieberman.
Good evening, Vice President Weigel, members of the committee. The city staff has been working with local developer Adam Crary to provide public utilities for one of his commercial lots that he's developing along Washington. It's located on the east side of Washington, just south of 57th Avenue. The developer has already funded privately funded improvements to the regional stormwater pond that would service this location. And last week, the next step is the developers approached the city requesting we special assess the construction of sanitary sewer and water main that would service this lot. So in your staff report, you'll see two districts that were drafted for each of those services. The district boundary consists of just that lot that is being developed, as that is the only lot that will benefit from this service. This is to be 100% special assessed. There's no city cost. And we've been working with CPS as the most qualified engineering consultant. We don't have a task order negotiated yet. We're working on that and intend to bring that to City Council next Monday, along with the revised engineer's report. So with that, tonight we're requesting approval of the engineer's reports, creation of the special assessment districts, approval of a task order with CPS at council next week, and direction for engineering department to prepare plans and specifications.
Thank you, Mr. Lieberman. Comments, motions? Mr. Veen? We have a motion to approve by Mr. Veen, second by Friedolfs. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lieberman. Item number 3.5, CPMA for Project 8719, Design Engineering for 47th Avenue Interchange. Ms. Sesselman.
Good evening, Vice President Weigel and members of the committee. The staff report before you tonight regarding Project 8719 discusses the activities completed and remaining, or project development activities completed and remaining under the previously approved 50-50 cost share agreement for the 47th Avenue Interchange project. So far, work completed includes the environmental document and the interchange justification report. The image here, or the map shown on the screen, is the proposed concept layout as can be found in that interchange justification report. At this stage of project development, the DOT seeks to validate its understanding that the city's desire is to continue project development activities to the extent that right-of-way acquisition for the interchange footprint can be carried out. And I just wanted to quickly highlight what the interchange footprint is in relation to, all connecting future roadways. So if you can see my cursor here, the interchange footprint is this area here, and does not include the realignment of South 42nd Street. So just to make that clear, it is, in order for right-of-way acquisition to be carried out efficiently, it's critical that this project be designed to around the 90% final design level so that negotiations with landowners and utility companies can include the appropriate level of detail so that, all questions can be discussed and answered. Previous approval of this cost share agreement resulted in $1.75 million being budgeted for these project development activities through final design and bidding. At this time, staff projects that the city share for this project will be approximately $67,000 greater than budgeted. As project development activities progress, staff will continue to closely monitor and refine this projection. Given the importance of this project for the city and expected minimal deviation from the budgeted city share, staff recommendation is to approve continuation of the project development activities relating to the preliminary engineering and right-of-way acquisition under this CPMA. With that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Veen, questions?
Yeah, question. I'm intrigued by the lane alignments that you have. It looks to me like southbound traffic, for instance, on interstate, there's two different avenues to get, if you go west, it looks like you have to come off of interstate to the north, and if you're going east, you're coming off on the south side of interstate? Do you know what I'm trying to say here?
If you were,
Bring your cursor up, further up north.
Yep.
Keep going, okay.
Yep.
Okay, now if you're southbound,
yep,
you have that, you're following that. That looks like south to west. But if you're going south to east, you go actually under the overpass, and then you make a loop there to go east.
correct.
Is that right?
That's right.
That's just a different alignment than I think I've seen when you're trying to do that. But just the awareness, and it looks like you do the same thing as you're in trying to go north. You're westbound on the east side, again, goes north on the ramp like you would normally do it. But if you're eastbound from the west side of interstate, you come around and you do a loop again, right?
Yep, that's right. That's the current concept layout. That's exactly what you're seeing.
It's there, okay.
Yeah, and this, again, to clarify, this is the concept layout that was shown for the preferred or selected alternative that came out of that environmental document and the interchange justification report.
True.
So as we work to progress towards the 90% final design level, it'll be interesting to see if there's any modifications to this concept.
And then I do see later on in the agenda, we have the paving of 47th from Columbia to 34th. There will be a segment from 34th to here yet to come for paving, is that right?
That's right. So on the last page prior to the attachments in the staff report, the second bullet up from where it just says support materials, gives a brief summary of what we're calling the connecting roadways projects. And so to simplify that a little bit, just here at the edge of this map, you have Columbia Road, and then to the west here would be those railroad tracks, which is close to the future South 48th. And so the area outside that interchange footprint that I described, all of those projects will be phased and split up, and that is in the IJR, or the interchange justification report, and that environmental document. The total project cost was estimated, or roadway cost, was estimated to be $53.2 million in 2023 dollars. Now, as city staff have, worked out some preliminary concepts and cost estimates for the connecting roadways. So outside of this interchange footprint, in 2024 dollars, we're looking at about 23.5 million of that being the, outside of the interchange projects.
So you'd have the 53.2 plus the 23.5.
No, it would be the other way around, but
Okay.
keep in mind that 23.5 is in 2024 dollars, and
So we will have to reroute 42nd. I mean, there's just
yes,
no choice to do that, and that's included in these costs.
in the 23.5.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Veen. Further comments, questions, motions?
Move approval?
We have a motion to approve by Veen, second by Berg.
I second.
Oh, was that by Osowski instead of Berg? Further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion will carry unanimously. Move on to item number 3.6. Documented CADEX plans and specs, light pillars for project 8722, reconstruction of North 4th Street, 1st Avenue North to 2nd Avenue North. Mr. Hunter?
Vice President Weigel, member of the committee, in an effort to streamline how many times we present the project, I'm seeking approval for multiple things for this project. It'll be the documented CADEX, which is the environmental document, select alternative B, approve plans and specs, and authorize amending city contract with Badman Design to add 6 light pillars for North 4th Street reconstruct from 2nd Avenue North, from 1st Avenue North to 2nd Avenue North. This project will utilize up to $2.2 million of federal funds, and the environmental document is the first step. The purpose for this project is to match the rest of the beautifications that have been done downtown. Selecting alternative B is to reconstruct. Alternative A was to no build. The proposed city share is $506,000, and in the budget for 2025, we have $561,000. For the light pillars, it'll be just amending the contract that we have existing with Badman for $44,000 per unit. The pillars themselves are not eligible for federal funding, so it'll be paid for. The staff report needs to be corrected. Funding will be split 50-50 with budget for 4815 and 2163 funds. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Comments? Mr. Bean?
Did I read that right? The light pillars, there's two of them are for the future project between Second and University, is that
We have
right?
not been awarded the funding for that, but when that comes, it'll be for that intersection.
And then maybe have we put the light pillars on every single project we've done downtown to date?
Yep.
Everyone has been done. On Third Street,
I
as we
believe
went
Third
north,
and
Fourth.
University doesn't have them, but I believe the rest of the projects have had them.
Which one do you say did?
Third and University, North Third Street, I believe does not have one.
What we're proposing, Councilmember Veen, we probably, we started this on, on Demers Avenue before the pandemic. And then we went to Third Street. And then we went to that first block on Fourth Street. And now we're going to do the second block on Fourth Street. The one thing we didn't do, for whatever reason, I don't know why, is that we didn't put light pillars on University Avenue and Third Street. So you see them going all the way up, but we didn't put the last two on, so we're proposing that we would put, if we should live so long, on this last block, we would put them on University. Especially if the DOT is willing to do all the underground work for it.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Further comments?
I guess I was wondering, what was the price of the lights when we first started installing them versus what it is now?
I believe it was like around 39,000, if that sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
So he's
And so,
honoring the price from 2022.
okay. And this is for 4 lights total, correct?
This is for 6 lights total. So it'll be 4 for
6
this
lights?
current project and 2
Okay.
for future project or for replacements, depending on what route we go.
Okay. Do we have any other places that I guess city staff would like to put these lights? Or are we going to be done after we purchase these 6?
We will likely be done. The designer will likely retire, from what I've heard. So we're trying to order them before he's done so we can match the rest of downtown with the same lighting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osowski. Comments? Motions?
I'll motion approval.
We have a motion to approve by Berg, second by Friedolfs. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Move on to item number 3.7, accept funding from NDDOT Flexible Transportation Fund for Project 8850, paving 47th Avenue South, Columbia Road to South 34th Street. Mr. Lieberman.
Thank you, Vice President Weigel. In 2023, North Dakota DOT rolled out a new program, the Flexible Transportation Funding Program. That brought about $160 million available statewide for transportation projects. City of Grand Forks submitted 3 projects for consideration, and this past April, we were notified that one of our projects was selected for funding. That is the paving of 47th Avenue South from Columbia West to 34th Street. That is our first major paving project supporting the interchange project. So we were awarded about $5 million, a little over $5 million. What that does for that project is without that funding, that project would be 100% city funded. This essentially makes it an 80-20 split with 80% state funds, 20% local. So the next step in the process is to formally accept these funds and enter a contract with North Dakota DOT, which is very procedural as far as how we agree to spend the funds and request reimbursement for those funds as we do construction. So tonight, we are requesting council approve the acceptance of funding and the entering of a contract with North Dakota Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Lieberman. Comments, motions?
I move approval.
We have a motion approved by Berg, second by Friedolfs. Further comments? Mr. Veen? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lieberman. Item 3.8, manual and uniform traffic control devices, ordinance update. Mr. Carter.
So looking for preliminary approval to amend City Code Section 80103. So this section refers to the MUTCD, Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So basically, it sets the guidelines for signs, pavement markings, stop signs, all that. So basically, when you go anywhere in the country, you have the same or familiar signage, road markings. In July 2024, the DOT approved it, and we're just consenting with the DOT. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Mr. Veen.
No, I think that's been the standard for years, and it's just a given. I'd make a motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion approved by Veen, a second by Berg. Further comments? I think it'd be more fun if everybody had their own signs, but maybe this is probably for the best. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 3.9 is recycling program discussion. Mr. Phelan.
Council Vice President Weigel and members of the committee of the whole. This was asked to be on here from our last budget meeting last week, Monday. So there's two items in my career that has spanned my career that we study in depth. One is recycling. Number two is public transit. So we had the joy of talking about both of those last Monday. And so this is recycling. And I think the staff report that we attached kind of talks a lot about the history of how we got here today. I just want to highlight, let's see here. I'm not sure if, here we go. I just want to highlight, we talk a lot about assets that we have for the city of Grand Forks. So the area in green, so as we go through, the area in green is our inert landfill, which is our construction demolition landfill. And so on this location, so you can see where the city's wastewater treatment plant is. This is Highway 2, the airport. And so this is the inert landfill where we put construction demolition material. Woody waste goes out there, yard waste gets composted out in this particular area. This is a non-lined landfill. So this is all the non-solid waste stuff goes here. So this is the more inexpensive landfill to run. This is the closed part of the landfill, and we had to close this due to the closeness of the airport back in the day. And so we cited a landfill, which is right here in this direction. So this is about a 100-year asset. And so right now you can see we're in this corner for the solid waste, and the cells will be built to the north, and then they'll go west. So whomever is here like 100 years from now, they can close this landfill. So none of us will have the joy to do that. So this is, these both really work together well, but this is an incredible asset the city of Grand Forks has. So solid waste landfills take away a lot of bad days that city of Grand Forks, the community, and the region can have that we have this. So this landfill is much more expensive. It's double lined. It has a leachate collection system, which is basically taking the wastewater from the landfill, and then we take it down this force main right here, and then we treat that. It has a stormwater pond, so it has lots of regulatory things that we have to do versus what this inert landfill has. So we try to reasonably avoid putting things in the solid waste landfill because we want this to last as long as possible because they're awfully hard to site, and hopefully this should be the last landfill, solid waste landfill the city of Grand Forks has. So just want to kind of give you kind of what we go through. And then as part of that, we did as the staff report said, we did a long study in 2021 in the midst of the pandemic. And so when I was reading through this old staff report, it kind of like Meatloaf's song, it all came back to me about all the things that we worked on that we forgot about during the pandemic. We did a lot of things during the pandemic, above and beyond the pandemic. So we took a really deep look at recycling and what did we want to do. And so we did a study about, best practices, what kind of, how did we want to do things. We did surveys of the public, and we ultimately came forward with requests for proposals to move forward. So 2021 really was meant to study, get citizen feedback, and then come back with a proposal. And so we did that throughout 2021. And so the current agreement that we have started in 2022. It is a 5-year agreement with 2 years to extend it. And as I talked about last week, theoretically, you can get out of this agreement within 90 days as we move forward. But leading up to what we did do, I think importantly, I was going back reading in 2021, we did do a survey, and you should feel really good about this, is number one, and this has been throughout my entire career here, 20-plus year career, is that people are really satisfied with their solid waste collection services. And that's shown with this survey that the scientific survey said 93% of people are very satisfied with their service. And so that's a lot of pride for our workers and what kind of service level we provide on a day-to-day basis. We also looked at recycling, and with the current recycling service, 62% were satisfied with that. So a little bit less, in which I can understand that. We also wanted to look at, are you willing to pay for as you do that? And what we did in that case is some people wanted to go to weighing your can. So the original folks that when we went through this side load container system, we started that in the late 90s, early 2000s, and everybody got a 90-gallon container. And if you have a 90-gallon container from the original, it's probably the best container you ever are going to get. So all the new containers are not made as well. And all the new containers are 60-gallon containers. So what we did is we shrunk what people could get as part of getting their container. And so we just kind of minimized what people should get. So that was some of the thought, was just go give everybody a smaller container. People are overall satisfied too with we had this debate too, with just incorporating the recycling service as part of the overall, we'll call it the garbage fee or the solid waste fee as part of that. Just incorporate that. The scientific survey said 61% just wanted it incorporated into that overall fee that we pay for solid waste services. We also did ask about subscription service. So the subscription was, if you want to sign up for recycling, you sign up for it and you pay for it. And we set the dollar amount at $4 because that, at the time when we did the study, that's kind of where people would break. Anything above and beyond $4, people likely were not going to sign up for that. The scientific survey was a 50-50. People said they were for that. So with that input from the community, we decided to move forward with the RFP to do an all-in. It's just part of one of the services we offer. Just like yard waste and picking, having the drop sites, all of that, it would just get incorporated. And what turned out is that we did get a really good deal. It was, at the time, $3.35 per month. And what we decided to do is give everybody the 60-gallon container, but then allow kind of more of a semi-automated system. So if you go to some communities, you have a container for your solid waste, and then you have a container for your recycling, and you have the side arm truck that comes by. That was much more expensive than the $3.35. That probably, as I recall, that was probably double that. So what the city council determined to do that, let's just go with what we got. People are generally satisfied with that, and it was the best cost that we could get, and really was a reasonable cost. Even when we looked across the region, we have really competitive rates with that particular issue. We also did go with multifamily, and you can see that's where multifamily is picked up in more of a larger container, so you got to do more work and go to the container. So we got a unit price for that. We looked at small business services, and then we had several drop sites. So we're thankful that we had the Public Works facility. I would say Valley Dairy, now I think it's called PetroServe, they were really great to work with, and all the Hugo stores. So they agreed to have drop sites. So people wanted drop sites. So we went with an and system. Let's do drop sites and let's pick it up at the curbside. Because it's really hard, some of these drop sites, they're hard to keep up with. And everybody wants a drop site near them, but don't put it too near me. So that's, the age-old song and dance that we go through. We do an electronics event, so they bid on that. And then the other part of this bid is that through our public-public partnership, we determined, the city agreed to do the recycling and some of the commercial garbage pickup at the Air Force Base. And so with this RFP, we incorporated the Air Force Base into our recycling services, and it worked out for them because it was economies of scale. They got to integrate with the city of Grand Forks, and it's really been a positive 2-year process of incorporating the Grand Forks Air Force Base into our system. When we, in the mayor's 2022 budget, based upon this RFP for services, we budgeted about $860,000. In this year's budget, we've budgeted a little over $1 million. So a little over $1 million for all those recycling services, for the drop sites, the curbside, the electronics, the Grand Forks Air Force Base. That's about $1 million. Your sanitation enterprise fund, which is Fund 5100, and I think this sub-department for recycling is 5140, if I recall correctly. It's about a $13 million enterprise fund. So you can see it certainly is a significant percentage, but it's really a minority of all the things that go on, from solid waste activities to, yard waste, to all the solid waste activities that we go on, that we move forward with. Within this budget, I just wanted to highlight if you look at that particular budget, we budgeted a little over $1 million. 138,000 of that, and you can look at this up in 5140, 138,000 goes to city facilities and small businesses. That's what we're budgeting. Drop sites are 144,000. The Grand Forks Air Force Base commercial service is 24,000, and of course, Grand Forks Air Force Base pays for that service. And then finally, they have a recycling center out at the Grand Forks Air Force Base, and that's 3,000. And those are annual. And the largest cost is really the curbside, and that's 720,000. That's for all the curbside service that we do every other week, that we perform that service. And that gets you to the little over $1 million for that service. So the service has gone up through growth. We have more customers every year, commercial and residential, and also there's been some cost escalation. So that's gone up about 6% for both of those reasons. The other thing that we did along in things that really work together, and the solid waste really works in an integrated fashion. You want to try to divert as much as you can reasonably. The other thing that we did is we had to get a new 10-year solid waste permit at the same time. And so what we proposed is we adapted how we collected or how we disposed of solid waste in our landfill. We used to bale, but since the pandemic, it was a mechanical system where we crushed the garbage together and then we bagged it and then we trucked it out to the landfill. As part of this permit change for the solid waste, we have an open fill landfill now that I spoke of with alternative daily cover in that. And the other thing that we did to demonstrate to the FAA and all those that are concerned about bird control is that we really have an integrated bird control system that's really worked quite well between the wastewater treatment lagoons and our solid waste landfill, and there's some other agricultural uses out there that are out there. So Melanie Parvey and her team have really done a great job. So we really proved out that we could move forward from the baling facility, do more of an open solid waste landfill with alternative daily cover with this augmented bird control plan. And so all of that came together, that we did the recycling review, we got this solid waste landfill permit updated for 10 years. And so a lot of good things happened in 2022, both with moving forward with a 5-year agreement on recycling, getting the 10-year agreement completed with the solid waste landfill, so that we have some runway to move forward with. So with that, I'm certainly here to answer any questions. It's not that we don't want to restudy things or re-arbitrate things, but I think we did a really good study. This city staff and consultant team did a really good overall review in 2021, and we moved forward with a 22 plan that we're in the midst of. Currently, right now, that contract on that will go through 26. The city council does have the ability to re-up it for a couple more years, But our recommendation is that we continue forward with the plan. I think the citizens are satisfied. We're doing it really for a reasonable cost and as part of an overall plan regarding our solid waste system. So with that, I'd answer any questions that you may have, Council Vice President Weigel.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Comments? Mr. Veen?
First of all, I'd like to start out, Mr. Phelan, with your experience and knowledge about solid waste landfill site development. Manville didn't turn out so well, and you took a lot of grief, but what we ended up with really worked well. And I know that was a long haul to get here to where we are, so I just want to thank you for what you did to do that. The other thing I found very interesting and I forgot about is the survey results that we've got here from how satisfied people were of the solid waste disposal and the and all of that we're doing here with recycling and what's happening there. I think it was in like 2012 we started looking at potentially switching the size of the containers. Weren't we going to flip-flop the solid waste versus the recycling? And that failed in city council, and so we've been consistent throughout the whole process.
You are correct. I think former Mayor Brown may have vetoed, or I cast the vote against doing that way back in the day.
Yeah,
So,
there was something in
yeah,
there.
that is lots of blasts from the past from Councilmember Kroon and Councilmember Bierke. So we had a real hashing out of recycling back in the day.
And Councilperson Weigel, I'm not for sure what the intent was for us to do, to reconsider, or what. I think it's been a very good informational item for us to have awareness of, and I suppose if somebody was interested in doing something different, we could do that. Otherwise, I appreciate the information, Todd, and again, we'll just express my happiness, I guess, with what we're doing and recommendation of continuing it.
Thank you, Mr. Veen. Ms. Berg?
My understanding is that President Sandy had requested this to potentially look at reducing our overall budget.
It was for further discussion. It is in the budget as I described. I think it was one of those RFPs. So if you get rid of one thing, you get rid of. It was all proposed and bid as a combination between drop sites, curbside, Grand Forks Air Force Base. So we recommend for 2025 that we keep it in the budget and keep moving forward.
Mr. Phelan, is there a way that we keep this on city council for next week in case Mr. Sandy wants to speak about it more?
Yes.
Perfect.
I think maybe if we just had a motion of, I think if you're so inclined to continue to maintain the current level of service and keep it in the budget, and at least it would move it forward to the city council.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Well, I have a question.
Ms. Wasowski.
Where does the recycling go? Where do they take it to get recycled?
Sure. Right now, Waste Management has done our recycling for several years. So what happens is it's collected here in Grand Forks at a facility, and then what it's done, it's trucked to. There's a large sorting facility in Minneapolis, and that's where most of the recycling goes from Waste Management to this Minneapolis sorting center. So it's it has different mechanical engineering mechanisms that sort the plastics from the metal from the various materials. So. That's where it goes, and I would suspect most of our recycling, at least from Waste Management, goes to that facility.
Okay. Are they the ones that do the electronic recycling also, Waste Management?
Yep, that was bid part of that. So that annual event every year, they're the ones that are collecting it and then shipping it off to appropriate places.
Okay. I guess personally, I really like our whole garbage system that we have here in Grand Forks. I've lived in other communities where they've had the garbage bags, the more pay for what you throw, and they were not good. And so I really like the program that we currently have.
Thank you, Ms. Wasowski. Is that a motion to continue with Status quo?
All motion,
Okay, we have
all
a
motion to continue.
Okay, we have a motion by Osowski, a second by Berg. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Move on to item 3.10, City of Grand Forks Park District Consolidation Consultant Study, referred from City Council on August 5th, 2024. Mr. Phelan.
Council Vice President Weigel, again, I think this was another item that was referred back to the Committee of the Whole, and I think primarily by Council President Sandy. So I thought to get things started, we do have representatives from the Park District that I'd like to have you an opportunity to provide their input. Their input is provided in the staff report and the attachments, and no shocker. They prefer to keep moving forward as they have, I think, since 1905. But before that, if Mr. Gossett could give you the legal briefing on what can be done.
I'll just give a quick overview. I think the staff report outlined the process, but the city had adopted, with an ordinance, had adopted and to take advantage of all the provisions of North Dakota Century Code 40-49, which is the Park District statutes. When you adopt that and want to take advantage of the statutes, you have to comply with the rest of the rules that are outlined in there too. In order to dissolve a park district that has been established that we have in the city of Grand Forks, either the Park District board members have to pass a resolution that would incorporate a plan of dissolution, or it has to be by petition of at least 25% of the qualified electors in the Park District election in the last general election for the city council, and that would have been, with the city, that would have been in June of this year. Then there's an election that would take place, depending on what the plan of dissolution would read. It could be at a general election or a primary election. The plan would become effective upon a majority vote of, again, the qualified electors within the Park District. The plan it doesn't specify all of the details of the plan, but the statute does describe certain things that the plan may consider. That would be including the disposition of the property of the Park District, payment of its debts and obligations, and then the transition. And the plan could have a delayed effective date if that was what was voted on. There also is publication requirements for that. And also, interestingly, this council is supposed to conduct meetings and have those type of meetings to get information out to the electorate on the plan. So it's really, if this comes forward, it would have to come forward through either a resolution by the Park District board members or through a petition before the city council would act to initiate that type of an election. So be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gosted. Comments from council?
I appreciate the park board reaching out and expressing their view on wanting to maintain a separate entity, and I respect that, and I really enjoy our parks. I think they do a fabulous job. So with that, I don't know if we need a motion to, I don't know.
Council Vice President, Councilmember Rourke, I think similar to the first one, I think the council resolving, I think the request was to do a study to look at it. I think to be on record of, do we want to move forward? We don't know what it would cost, but it would at least give city administration an indication if you're interested in going further. And I would just note that, the city of Grand Forks, our personnel work quite well with the Park District. And so sometimes I think this to myself, if we don't screw it up on a Monday evening, our folks do great things day to day. And so I'll just give you some examples. Park District has forestry. Sometimes cities have forestry within their public works department. Like the city of Bismarck has the forestry department. Well, in our case, the Park District has forestry, so our public works department. Sharon Lipsch and her gang from street sanitation work quite closely with their forestry department. Because we We have great trees, but, things happen, so they really work well together. So I think there's a synergy between those two departments in that area. And if you look along the Greenway, so the Greenway is owned by the city of Grand Forks, but there's some important pieces where the Park District operates and maintains those areas, and those are, highlighted, the Riverside Park is something that they operate. We share the Riverside pool. We own the pool, but we share in the expenses. Lincoln Park is another park that they operate. And then there's several restrooms along the flood protection system that they help maintain too. So those are oftentimes, those entryways into the Greenway. In recent years, in residential developments, there's a land set aside for parks. And so we've worked with the Park District on trying to share those because we gobble up more and more land because of these stormwater ponds. And so they've been good to work with and trying to share some of their land set aside so that we can not only have parks, but we can also share some of the land for stormwater. So we don't take too much of the land away from development. And then finally, we're working on the indoor sports and aquatic complex. So that's another project that we're working on. They are our city brethren. We're the city of Grand Forks and they're the city park district. So we do work together with that. So those are some of the highlights that we talked about today among our departments about things that we work together on.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Mr. Friedolfs.
So I know President Sandy, his main concern was there was some overlap. I don't think we need a trade study for that. I think there's some smart people in the room that can just sit down together and just, what are these redundancies? The city's mowing the lawn next to the park district and they see them both mowing at the same time or something. I don't see a need for a trade study. Another thing someone called me today and discussed was, there's money-wise, believe the park, I may speak out of turn here, but the park district may get private funds from citizens. Then if you were to do this idea and combine the two, now you've got a really strange gray area of donations and funding, I think. So I think the way we do it now, put a couple people in a room and just chat what those redundancies would be.
And I think, Mr. Friedolfs, what you're speaking to is possibly the Park District Foundation,
Yes.
which I believe is a separate entity from the actual Park District too. If I'm correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I see a bunch of nodding heads. Okay.
So.
I have a question. What determines, if the city cares for the park or the park board cares for the park?
Council Vice President Weigel and Council Member Osowski, generally, the parks around town are with the Park District with some exceptions. And I think the exceptions to the rule are the Greenway, because that's part of the flood protection system, other than the Riverside and Lincoln that the Park District agreed to operate after the flood. The other exception is some of the downtown parks. Those are maintained by the city of Grand Forks. But I think otherwise, parks are maintained by the Park District.
Do they have maybe a better ability to take care of some of those downtown parks than we do?
Councilmember,
do you have to make agreements with them if they want to if we want them to take care of them, or what's that process like?
Well, we've tried to develop some of them, so we put buildings on some of them, which we thought was a good idea, and I think what we've partnered instead with the Downtown Development Association has been our partner to maintain the downtown and the downtown parks, and I think they've had a more keen eye on the downtown, so I think that's been a partnership that's worked better for us in that case.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osowski. Mr. Veen, question?
Yeah, just a couple quick comments. And I'm trying to, like you were talking about, Ms. Friedel, about Mr. Sandy referring to the opportunities to work together, maybe. I'm not saying we don't, because I believe that they do. There's always maybe something more. But I myself am appreciative of the existing structure and the Park District being its own political subdivision compared to the city. I think it's very unique, the things the Park Board deals with respect to the park system versus what we have to do with the entire system. So, and so I think we've always worked really well together and will continue to do that. So I'm ready to make a motion, whatever that would be, that we continue the structure as we know it today. At the same time, doing as we always do, look for opportunities to share.
Thank you,
I
Mr. Veen.
second.
We have a motion by Mr. Veen and a second by Ms. Osowski. Further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to item number 4, City Council Member Discussion Matters. Ms. Osowski,
No, thank you.
Ms. Berg,
No, thank you.
Mr. Friedolfs, Mr. Veen, Ms. Lunsky.
Yes, I just wanted to, I tried to raise my hand. Currently, the DDA doesn't have any contracts to manage any parks. I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you, Ms. Lunsky.
It's been talked about, but
Appreciate it. Anything further, Ms. Lunsky?
no, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion by Osowski to adjourn?
I move adjournment.
All right, motion to adjourn, second by Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. We are